I told them they're too quiet, but I muted them all. Yes, that is true. That is my fault. So what'd y'all have for lunch? Coffee. Come on, real food. Come on. Candy, something. Panda? Panda's a good option.
I
Ooh,
limit
someone had
myself to
sushi. Hey,
pet.
Stacy, you're making me jealous. Stacy had sushi.
Oh, that's right there.
Pumpkin soup and grapes. That sounds pretty solid. It's that season, right? Everyone's eating pumpkin everything. My issue is everything with pumpkin has cinnamon in it, so I can't have any of it.
I don't pumpkin nothing. No.
You're not a pumpkin person?
Sweet potatoes.
Oh, sweet potatoes good. Sweet potato pie, sweet potato. I've been getting these massive organic sweet, she's laughing because she's seen them. Massive organic sweet potatoes from the farm here. I get a bag of stuff every week. It took an hour and a half in the air fryer to cook this sweet potato. It was so big, and I have 3 more. I don't know what to do with them. I was like, I can't. This is like 2 to 3 meals a piece.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, they're super delicious.
Yeah.
Because they're nice and organic and overgrown but they're just too big. They barely fit in the air fryer. Took 12 minutes for one of them in the microwave, which is just too much time in a microwave. I feel like at that point, I need to find something else to do.
So here's a little tidbit. You poke holes with the fork.
Yeah.
You put it
Wrap it in a paper towel.
Nope.
Oh.
Nope.
And not in the microwave.
Nope. All right. You season your water however you want it. Put the baked potato in it. And you do put it in the microwave, but you have the water in it. You put a little something on top of it to keep the air going, or not the air, but the water going, and you boil it with the flavored water. Put it on for like maybe 12, 15 minutes. Check it, make sure it's the way that you like it consistency wise. And if you do, just take it out and there you go.
Alex, did you have a question to ask? You raising your hand? You can type it in the chat. Oh, it's 1:06. So we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Most of you know me, but if you don't, my name is Mel Lopez. I'm the new learning specialist for TRIO SSSD. I'm going to be your presenter and moderator today for our discussion. I'm joined by some amazing people here who have come willingly to share their stories and their interactions with students or themselves in the workforce. I'm going to let them introduce themselves more formally just before we start our questions. But we have Gary, Bell with a B, not with an M. We get that confused all the time. Jenny and Tori here. We're going to get started briefly first with a PowerPoint to go over some of the history and the importance of Disability Employment Awareness Month. And then we'll go into our questions. And then as we go through the questions, if you guys have specifics you want to ask, any discussion points, we'll give time for that as well. Let's start with, come on. Why are we here today, right? We all know Disability Employment Awareness Month, right? That's the title. That's why we're here. But more importantly, we're here to recognize and discuss the importance of disability employment and the push for people in higher education to understand the barriers, challenges, and possible solutions that they can offer to students as they're moving into the workforce. Most challenges can be addressed with support, advocacy, or awareness, right? Obviously, there's those that can't, but these are the big 3 things we want everyone to take away from today. So the history, I know it's a lot. I'm going to go over it much faster than it looks like. Disability Employment Awareness started in 1945 under the name National Employ the Physically Disabled or Physically Handicapped Month, right? Not great. They changed that in 1962 where they just removed the physically. So it was just Nationally Employ the Handicapped. And then in 1988, they come up with Disability Employment Awareness. This movement came along with opening up disability employment support beyond veterans, which is what it primarily started at. And then they began to expand their terms of disability, what that meant to individuals and what that meant to our society. Some other important things to know in disability support history is obviously the Rehab Act, Section 504, the ADA, which I think a lot of people forget how young the ADA is. This is even not the most recent kind of big movement. A lot of what we do is based off the ADA AA, which came out in 2008, but the ADA came out in 1990. So think about how short we've had this sort of conversation going on. And then finally for this year, Disability Employment Awareness Month's theme was expanding job opportunities and fostering empowerment, which I think is a really amazing theme. A lot of people assume it's, oh, let's learn how to do resumes, let's learn how to do interviews. No, it's learn to advocate for yourself, empower yourself and those around you. So you're all here because you work in a college or university or you're a student going through that transition currently. Oops, sorry. So why it even matters to employ individual disabilities, right? What's the point of the push? There's lots of reasons. Number one is an inclusive workplace goes beyond just you've now included someone else. That adds new perspectives. It adds growth in the economy. It adds new ideas for innovation and creativity. Currently, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 21.3% of individuals with disabilities are employed, compared to 65.4% of those without disabilities. That is a really important statistic because that's not based off one another, that's based on the individual population numbers. And it's quite a significant gap, I would say. And so, as I said, their push this month is all about empowerment. So for individuals with disabilities, employment means more than just financial independence. It can mean a sense of purpose, social inclusion, personal empowerment, and the ability to fully contribute into society the way we're always told we should, but never given the resources to do so. So the barriers often faced by the students in college, in high school, in anything that they're going into the workforce next. Number one is limited access to career development resources. We have a great career development source on campus, but a lot of the things are built to service as many students as possible, which means very often they're not very inclusive of those who require that little bit of extra stuff. So many students report having difficulty accessing career services, internship opportunities, mentorship programs, things that we have told students are very critical to getting a successful career. Number two is discrimination and bias. I know we'd love to think we're an open, inclusive world, but let me tell you, no. They still have it all the time in the workplace, in the hiring process, in education. They face both overt and subtle discrimination, despite being qualified for their positions. Then we just have straight up inaccessible environments, right? Job interviews held in inaccessible locations, workspaces that are inaccessible, that lack accommodations, and just generally fail to meet individuals' needs to be successful. Lastly, that lack of support in internship and in work study programs. Without proper accommodations or supervisors of these programs who understand what these individuals require to succeed in their job, and they can succeed if given those things, students are essentially missing out on that stepping stone. That again, we really push our students towards internships constantly. It's a huge part of our discussion with them in a successful career. But we're forgetting about the other students that require that supervisor with knowledge or with awareness and that inclusion in the workforce. So how can college staff and faculty help? there are lots of important things you guys do constantly to help students. These are just kind of more specific, more tailored to individuals with disabilities, right? And that first is tailoring that career guide and support. Advisors and faculty working very closely with the students to understand their unique needs beyond just, I know you want a job, but what does that look like for you? How many hours a day is it for you? How many people around you is it? How many, asking those deeper questions to find all of their strengths and offering advice on how to request those workplace accommodations. Number two is collaborating with the different programs on campus, right? We have several different groups, obviously TRIO SSSD or just SSD. I know it's the same letters. It's very confusing in the office, but it's two different programs. We do two different things. The Career Development Center, DOR, which is a Department of Rehabilitation for California. But it's all about sharing resources, sharing information, getting that support and awareness to as many people as possible, and then bringing it back to your student. And finally, educating employers. Sometimes we forget as we're preparing students to enter the workforce, eventually some of them will be employers, not employees. So it's important that we're educating those outside of the disability realm on what it means to have an inclusive workplace. That's encouraging employers to consider what their universal design basis is of their workplace, what accommodations and accessibility mean to them, how they can work that into the everyday life of the office, that it's not something they have to ask for in addition, but it's something that's already there. This is just those expanded a little bit more, collaborate with career services, right? Things like mock interviews, accessible job opportunities, DOR connections, promoting disability awareness training. So not only for yourselves, but for other individuals, for our students, understanding the laws and rights of what it means to be a disabled person in America, what is available to you and what protection you have. What accommodations mean, how to ask for them, when to ask for them is a really big one. Inclusion, exclusion, barriers, and then universal design are kind of the key things. So our two practical strategies often brought up in this discussion are the push for universal design principles, there's my cane, and a focus on self-advocacy. So who knows what universal design is? And so the universal design is the essential thought of making everything as accessible as possible to as many people as possible from the start. So instead of having everything as an addition to whatever you're doing, instead offering it all up front. That means having multiple formats of things. So if you're providing something in paper, have a voice version or a video version, or have a Braille version available or a large print version. If you're doing something that allows for flexible deadlines, have flexible deadlines, right? Work with the individual. And then always catering to the diverse learning styles, right? Some of us love a good visual. Some of us need an auditory learning style. Some of us need that tactile. So see what you can do to include all of those things in whatever it is you're doing. So instead of just telling the student, oh, this is your GE portfolio, have it printed and paper that they can touch and see and highlight and mark on, right? Just that little extra step can mean so much to that student understanding what the next thing is. And then providing that career advice with a focus on self-advocacy. Encouraging students with disabilities to be proactive in their career development by teaching them how to effectively advocate for themselves and how to request their accommodations, how to disclose a disability, how to present their skills and strengths, rather than always view themselves as something that requires support. Yes, they need accommodations. That's something everyone with a disability has admitted at one point or not, but they also need to understand they still have something to give to that workplace. They still have strengths that they are giving to that place. So in career guidance, encouraging exploration of career interests can be really important. As all of you know, working with college students constantly, no one really knows what they want to do in life, right? Until they're doing it, and then they're like, actually, let's change. I think it's like 46% of freshmen change their major, right? So can we really expect all the students to know what they want their future careers to be right from the start and how to prepare for that? Instead, encouraging them to get in contact with multiple internship sites, explore new ideas, do things like ONET, where they can explore what their interests connected to jobs are, finding something that they enjoy more than just things they think they have to do. And then the mentorship aspect. Here at Fresno State, we are really, really big on mentorship, right? We have multiple mentorship programs, but it can be kind of difficult to think about who would mentor a student with a particular disability, because you want to be a mentor that has a connection to that student. But do you want to be like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, so you should get a wheelchair, mentor? Is that really going to help them if the person, that's the only thing they share? Right? And so it's being comfortable to explore navigating the workplace as a mentorship, developing skills, building confidence, thinking about who can help them learn skills outside of their disability in the career they want. So not being afraid to suggest this wild out of the box idea for a mentor because it's something that they are hoping for, even if you don't see the connection immediately. So this is what I think is the most important, breaking barriers, particularly fostering a culture of inclusivity and respect, right? You can be inclusive, but you can still not respect everyone in that space. And that's what we're pushing for, is that respect of each other. So encouraging everyone on campus, from students to faculty, to embrace a culture where diversity is valued and inclusivity is the norm, right? It's not something that is new. It's not something added on to our project. It is just what we always do. This includes creating an environment where students feel safe to share who they are. They feel empowered to pursue their career and educational dreams. And they know that they're going to be supported every step of the way. And then recognizing the achievements without giving false praise. Celebrating accomplishments of students with disabilities, especially when they transition into the workforce, is very important. But you highlighting their success in a way that is actually something successful. Very often, especially in media, things are praised that are not individuals' accomplishments, but are instead individuals' lives. My greatest example of that is Selma Hayek went to a Selma Hayek? No, that's the wrong actress. There's an actress who went to a premiere with her cane for the first time as an individual with MS, and she was praised and praised, and she came out, it's like, why are you praising me for going to something that I was going to go to anyway? This is not an accomplishment. This is my job. It's not something I did extraordinary. You can talk about everything else I've done, the work I've done for charities, the work I've done for kids with MS, for all these things, but instead you just chose an average day of my life because you see that as an accomplishment just because I'm disabled. Right. And so it's avoiding that false praise in those things, but still encouraging them. Your key resources, SFD again. These are accommodations in education and can very often give students ideas of what accommodations would be needed in the workplace later on. The ADA network is a great website, very comprehensive kind of breakdown of what the ADA covers and what the laws are of protection for individuals. Our DOR here, Department of Rehabilitation, their whole goal is to get individuals employed. So they are constantly supporting these students financially through support through workability for here on campus, through doing mock interviews, through helping them find interview clothing. It's anything you need for your dream job, they'll help you get it. And then JAN is a great resource, the Job Accommodation Network, exploring what accommodations would look like in the workplace. You can do it by disability identification, you can do it by workplace location, but it's exploring what it would actually look like for that individual to go to that space. So if you're working in a career-based support with an individual, this is a great resource to go and look at. Okay, yes, you're asking for accommodation, but what accommodations are you actually trying to push for? What does that look like? What would it mean? What is the verbiage we're gonna use? Let's talk it out, piece by piece. So the next steps are just continuing to get involved. You guys are all here today because you care about students and you care about their success, which is amazing, right? And it's always celebrating, but also continuing to advocate for individuals, being proactive, offering career guidance, ensuring a proper accommodation and things, getting them connected with the needed resources, staying informed, obviously, staying up to date on legal frameworks, such as the ADA or the Rehabilitation Act, ensuring that you know what barriers are there and how, potentially what the solutions are out there. And then collaboration with the Career Center, with SSD, things like that. And most importantly, I, this was supposed to bounce around the screen. I'm so sorry. Listen to students, listen to individuals, listen to what they're trying to tell you and what they're trying to get to. Because sometimes we're jumping the gun, we have an hour with them and we want to get it done, but we're not listening to what they're actually trying to tell us. And I say this again as an individual with a disability and as an individual in advising. I will sometimes cut my students off and later I'm like, you know what, I know they were trying to tell me something important about their dreams, what they're trying to accomplish, but I cut them off and I need to go back. I need to talk to them again. So now we're gonna hear from our panelists. As I mentioned before, we're gonna give them a chance to more formally introduce themselves. So if you'd like to start here with Gary. Please tell us your name, pronouns, current occupation, and your favorite support services that you used here at Fresno State.
Hi, my name is Gary. I'm a former student here at Fresno State, graduated with my bachelor's in rec therapy. What was the other?
Pronouns.
He, him,
And your favorite support service here at Fresno State.
was students with disabilities.
Oh, that's it.
Oh.
You can hand it to the next.
Hi, my name is Mel. I am finishing my master's in rehabilitation counseling. And I'm working with Erica as an employment specialist intern with workability. Of course, my favorite, what is that resource?
Support service, yeah.
Yeah, support services. I would say in the beginning it was the student counseling. And of course, workability. I know I should go more to the graduate, but I never really had the chance, just being very busy. That's it.
I'm Jenny Johnson. I'm the Director of Services for Students with Disabilities, as well as the Interim Director for TRIO SSFD. My pronouns are she, her. I've been with SSD for almost 19 years now. I received my undergrad in child development, my master's in rehabilitation counseling, and it's probably for another story, but I never used services on campus until my final semester of the graduate program when I signed up with SSD. So there.
Hello, my name is Tori Davis, and I am a campus involvement ambassador here at Fresno State. And I'm also a senior, so a student in business marketing. I think my favorite services was student involvement, and then
Pronouns.
she, her.
Alrighty. So we'll start with Tori since she's got the mic right now. Our first question, can you share your personal journey navigating college and entering the workforce as an individual with a disability?
I started at Fresno State, and I feel like I didn't really. My mom's always taught me just always know where your exits are, because it's not like someone would show you around campus all the time. And even still, like I need to make sure that I know where the exits are if I'm on the second floor or something like that, just for my safety. So college was a little bit hectic because just not knowing or not thinking that like, oh yeah, everybody just going to go into our community, more of finding that kind of independence. And then for the workforce too, as an individual with disability, I think that like for me, the reason why student involvement is super important is because it was the first gateway to actually think that like I can do this. Because since I was young, I've always wanted to do big things or just be able to do things. But people would kind of just say like, oh yeah, you can do it. But it was the way that it was portrayed or a little wishful star. And so to be able to take that initiative was a very shocking to me that like I was still able to participate. Just because I also have known that like 80% of people that are disabled and they can work, they do not because of that kind of bias and that thought of discrimination. And it is hard, definitely, to see like just how I can do workforce stuff just because of that kind of stereotype or just resources too.
And for me, I was this second year before I graduated with my undergrad that I was starting to develop symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. So I went an entire year kind of going to doctors here and there and just trying to navigate the pain and go through college. I wasn't really sure of resources or what I could do. And it wasn't until my final year that I was finally diagnosed with RA. At that point, I literally dropped out of school. I didn't think that I would be able to go on. I didn't know what was available to me, what kind of health care. I had a family friend, a really close family friend who also had RA. And forgive me for using this word, but this is the word that we used. She was crippled, and that was going to happen to me. I wasn't going to be able to finish school. So, but luckily, with the help of friends, with faculty who really supported me, I continued on. They helped me get to school, helped me get dressed. I wasn't aware of resources still at that time. It wasn't until I went into grad school that I learned about the SSD office and the support it provides students. So for me, it felt natural to go that way and to navigate my career towards working with individuals with disabilities. And as I mentioned, it was my final semester that I actually signed up because back in the day, we had to write for 4 hours for our comps. And with my arthritis, it was very challenging for me. So I signed up for SSD and I was able to type it up. So just little things like that help. But anyway, so that's where it drew me, and I navigated my graduate work to working with individuals in higher education at Fresno City College here at Fresno State, and it just kind of is me that. Yeah.
So for me, so I'm a returning student. I was employed for a long time when I was in Hong Kong. And when I was there, I was going through a lot. I had been seeing a counselor and kind of like he helped me to more focus on what I want. And I decided I want to go back to school. No, first I wanted to be a counselor because I thought he helped me a lot. And then I went to school in Hong Kong. I just focused on literally going beyond my anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety and I also have a history of suicidal thoughts, self-harm. So I would say here, my personal journey navigating college right now is my counseling. It really helped me to stay focused. There was a time when in the program I was feeling a lot of anxiety and I started to have panic attacks, which never happened to me when I was a flight attendant, which I thought was more of a stressful environment. It was more of a life and death, and I was easier to handle that kind of situation. But when I started to go to school and I felt a lot of pressure, and I would go to a counselor, that really helped me to calm down and adjust. So I also had a hard time adjusting to a new environment, even when I had any kind of life in the beginning. I started during the COVID. It was great that I was with my family, with my brother in Merced. And then when I got here, that was really my lowest point. COVID time, you're by yourself. And then after class, I'm by myself. And I can't talk to my family because they're busy. And it's hard to make new friends because you're just knowing each other in the screen, right? So that was really hard. Yeah. But now I would say I have to say that my skills as a flight attendant, I learned to become friendly, and I'm very shy and introverted. I've learned to talk to people, and I have to say where I'm working right now is also because of my mentor, which is Kim. She was my first team. We had a partnership with Dr. Kubajan's class, and I stayed with her, and she's very chill, and I asked her questions. She's very patient with me, and she's helped me, and that's why I'm here. You know, like learn. I think you always have friends and resources, and just be friendly, and that's it. You know.
All right, so my story starts out, I was born with disability. And I started with, my mom introduced me into adaptive sports. So at an early age, third grade, I was competing in wheelchair athletics. And that led with a different perspective as I was growing up through elementary, junior high, and high school. And it helped me learn to be an advocate for myself. So when I started at City College after I graduated high school, my mom was always encouraging me to fight for your own right, get the accommodations that you needed, and move forward. And if there was a challenge, well, you overcome the challenge. So in that mindset, I would always use disabled student services, regardless if I needed mentorship, uh, accommodations with testing, increase of the increase of time for testing, um, calculators, people writing notes for me. And that led to me wanting to go into rehabilitative counseling and therapy. But in that sense, when I got into that major, it didn't fit that well. So when I left and came back, I went back to City College, got my prerequisites in recreational administration. And then I graduated in therapeutic recreation with my bachelor's in science. Along that line, I was with Break Barriers for about 10 years. So I was a ambassador for inclusion, and I was doing part of halftime shows for Fresno State, uh, Sacramento Kings, Dallas Mavericks, doing shows for different kind of conferences around California. And it led to the point where when I was approached by anybody with a disability, hidden or not hidden, I was able to direct them in the right area of where they needed to go for their own answer. And I always encourage them to seek out answers for themselves. So when it came to me graduating 3 years ago, I was approached 2 years later, asked a question, would you want to be a coach for adaptive sports for other children? Heck yeah, why not? I'll be able to teach these kids what I've been doing for the past 20+ years. And then instill what I've learned in those past 20+ years so that they can be armed with the same resources and the same knowledge that I had to unfortunately learn growing up without having someone else mentoring me. So, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I'm coaching. I'm part of a division 3 team here in Fresno. And I want to put Fresno back on the map with ability, awareness, and adaptive sports.
Thank you. We'll go on to our next question. Can you share some of the most significant challenges students with disabilities face when transitioning from college to the workforce?
A significant challenge would be when you go for the interview and you know all the answers, you know that you're the right fit, but then they look at you and they see the disability. Whether you're physically in a wheelchair, you're using a cane, you're blind, possibly hard of hearing, and they say, well, we can't accommodate you. But that's a lie, because you can. You can have an interpreter. You can put someone who's using a wheelchair in a certain area that hasn't been used and have it modified. It is not that hard to do something, because every single business has, I guess, these you call it slush funds to make things accommodating for that employee. And only that, you provide a different perspective for your employer that helps them be more aware of the possibilities of future employees who have disabilities. And it just helps empower the business. That's my own opinion about it.
I think for me, the biggest challenge is adjustment. Because I have very high anxiety, anything that's new to me, I have to adjust. And when you're a student, you're focused on your assignments, finishing your homework, and it's laid out there, it's given to you. Okay, this is what you have to do for the rest of the semester. But when you go to work, basically, you have to know what's going on. And then there are meetings, there are deadlines, and if you are not asking or clarifying it, for me, I tend to internalize it, and then I overthink it at night. That's the most challenging for me.
So I think one of the most significant challenges is when a student, and it's just in any higher education institution, they are already getting pushback and having barriers and getting not getting their accommodations provided in the classroom or at events. And so they're already feeling discouraged, they're already feeling defeated, because if my faculty member is not going to provide me with the accommodation, why is the workplace providing me with the accommodation? And maybe they're not advocating for themselves, or maybe they're not sharing with SSD, or they do share with SSD and say, I don't want you to talk to my faculty member because I'm scared of retaliation. I'm scared they're going to give me a bad grade. And so having that experience is probably holding them back from asking when they go to the workforce, or when they're interviewing. And hopefully we try to share with them the resources that we have, like DOR, Ability 4. We try to expose them as much as we can. But I really do believe that that's probably one of the challenges, is that they're already facing it here. They feel that they're probably going to be facing it out there in the workforce.
I forgot, and I didn't really realize that we're that everybody was sharing their experiences and like what I do. But like I didn't really think to say like that I have periodontitis or osteogenesis imperfecta. Basically, I grew up breaking a lot, like bones, and my bones are very fragile. So don't worry, there's a story for this. For me, the most significant challenges for college, since I'm also a business major as well, like, I've been told that like with a resume, you just wanna look at it, and when you apply for jobs or internships, you always have to say, I'm in a wheelchair, or I'm in this. And like, so on paper, they only know you on paper, and a lot of times interviews are like after saying like, oh yeah, I like this paper. But, so there's always that backlash as well, or finding time for treatments or stuff like that, because as a kid, I would go through, the hospital was like my second home. I didn't realize until I was 17 how not normal it is to not go to the hospital twice a week. That was just normal to me. And that was a culture shock to hear that people would go once a year. So just finding time to like have these appointments while trying to also look for jobs, or sometimes just things that I can't control. I can't control if I have a break. I can't control if I have a broken leg. So it really sets that back too. But finding ways to be creative and show the importance of independence. Like, yeah, I might have a broken leg, but it's not like I'm using my legs right now, so I can still go into work and just, do what I need to do. That's why I kind of wanted to go into business as well. And I feel like I am comfortable with public speaking and communicating, but with financial resources, like a lot of times it's already harder for people that like have or are in college, or regular people or that are in college, and then the high percentage of just the waiting time to get a job, just in general. Because everybody has the work experience, but not a lot of people have the actual experience. So it's even more so for people that I would say that like have disabilities, and also finding the financial resources too, because eventually I want to learn how to drive, but that takes a lot of like financial burden. It's not my fault that like I have to take the bus right now. Finding that kind of shift to be able to do that is huge. I have to like have so many modifications for a car, like with the money that like I don't have, and like figuring out how to reach this kind of money to be able to get that accommodation that I need to be able to be successful. And also with volunteers and building that experience, because a lot of times with first jobs, they're like something like working at McDonald's or retail, but it's, I don't really think that like with the space, I can't work at McDonald's because I would be running people's clothes over. It's not intentionally, but just
Maybe a little intentionally.
Well, no, there's not many things that like about that. So, yeah. I feel like just find a way to allocate it makes it harder and scarier, because you don't really know if people are going to be as understanding.
So more importantly, connecting back to all those who joined us today, what role do you think college staff and faculty can play in preparing students with disabilities for success in their careers?
Well, everybody had said something about inclusion, but like for me, student enrollment was an eye-opening thing, because there are not many students that I've seen that are like disabled and that have like that kind of presence. So I didn't know if I could actually do that, because I thought, oh, they're always going places, or I'm not sure if I can fully be involved. So just showcasing that, like, yeah, like everybody's welcome. And yeah, I understand it's kind of hard to just like, oh, let me just pull you aside and, cater directly to you, but I don't know, it was still just eye-opening.
And kind of going back to how I answered the second question, is just making your classroom accessible from the get-go, and it's so inviting when a student goes to class and they're able to listen to the materials right away. I I know we do our best to provide interpreters very first day of the semester. So just being accessible, that shows a lot to them because it's telling them that you see them and you hear them. And you want to encourage them and support them. I think being willing to learn, students don't have to disclose their disability, but if they do, learn about it. Research, different types of accommodations that can be provided, and I would say that's probably more for internship environments, practicum environments. We had a situation with a student who was going into internship and they weren't allowing her to use her accommodation, or they wouldn't allow them to have that. And because they believe that a person with this type of disability doesn't belong in this field. And so luckily the student advocated for herself. Even one of the faculty members did a little research, and the student did looked into their organizational programs, found somebody with that type of disability, kind of developed mentorship, and shown, yes, this can be done and this is how you do it. But just doing that, a little bit of research, connecting the student with someone who may have a disability and who's already currently working in that field, and to let you know that the student is very successful now in that field. So she did it, and for advocating for herself and her faculty with a little bit of a push, you know, they also helped and encouraged her, and she's very successful now.
I also think that maybe having some workshops or training or something where students are having that social skills training before going to work, before being in the workplace, something like that would be good. And also being able to have an inclusive environment where everyone can have that experience of communicating with others who may have some disability, and talking, just like that, this kind of setting, as well as having the engagement, more like something like that. In a setting, for example, let's say how it's like to be at work. So we're prepared, we are all, it's not only for individuals with disabilities, but also for others who have maybe a little bit shy, more included, like something like that.
Luckily for me, when I was doing my internship, I didn't need the accommodations. The accommodations were already in place. So I was able to do my 6-month internship without any barriers, physical barriers, so to say. But the college staff and the faculty were very accommodating with testing. Like I said in the previous question, testing questions, they would stay afterwards if I needed to have any questions answered by them, if I would need any type of clarification. SSD was there when I needed the time and a half. It was very well, my whole experience was very accommodating here when I was on campus. And it just led to more positive and more fruitful future for me.
How do you think, let's follow up to that, do you have any like tips or tricks or resources in which the college staff and faculty can help students identify employers who are committed to an inclusive workplace, not just inclusivity in terms of disability, but inclusivity of all and everyone? There's not a list out there of like, these are the places that have all the, accessible for wheelchair. These are the places that have, a mixed group of employees. But how do you kind of learn that environment? Sadly, we can't Google inclusive workplace. I wish we could. Yeah.
I'll come back to you on that.
I would say start with the internship sites because that's where the colleges start working, connecting with places to take on their students. And just making sure that they actually are willing to accommodate students in general. Because we shouldn't really be working with those sites if they won't accommodate, because they are an extension of Fresno State when it comes to accommodations. So I would probably say starting there and then including it in the conversation. I know because I work with individuals with disabilities. Disabilities and access is always on my mind. So when I'm going to the stores, I'm always looking at the racks. Okay, are this wide enough a park and a wheelchair fit through here? So I know it's not natural for everyone, but when that happens, kind of throw it in there. What would it be like working if we had a student with a disability come to your workplace, or with the CDC as well is asking about accessibility or accommodations. How do they support their employees in that instance?
Anyone else? You don't have to. So you don't have to for this follow-up, but if you have a,
would say that like a lot of times that like it's easier to just kind of like nod your head like yeah I completely get it and be sympathetic, but a lot of times it's I don't know how to explain it. It's more like a look or a kind of vibe that I can get or that they're just like being sympathetic and they truly do not really want to help or they're just kind of saving face. So to see that people actually are taking an initiative to even if it's something little like researching themselves or just trying to like showing that like I actually want to help you and just showing that initiative, like sometimes it's shocking just to like I didn't expect you to care or to just go out of that for these people or just people in general. Because at the end of the day, people want to be heard and communication is very much key. But like just to show that you care, to show that you actually want to help is a very important thing because growing up you're just told that you're going to have to just do it yourself or you're just going to have to find a way around it and just accept that you're not living you're living in a world that won't do that for you. So to show that you emphasize and want to do something for them, really just helps everybody just understand.
if,
I'm gonna piggyback.
okay,
Alright, so I'm gonna piggyback on Jenny's answer. It's correct that when you are part of a system that is dedicated to helping people with disabilities and you have the connections to the outside world, sometimes your connections don't have the answer, but it's also good to seek out other people who have connections for you to connect with to increase your own network. And once you can increase your own network, the possibility of placing that student in that area of expertise that they want to go into becomes more reality. Like for instance, with Break the Barriers, I was with them for, like I said, 10 years. They have connections that maybe we don't have here at Fresno State. But maybe we have connections there for the state that Break the Barriers doesn't have. So when you have that open line of communication, it becomes more successful for your own student to be their own advocate, for you to advocate for them so that they learn what steps it takes to become a more successful person, individual, have their own self of independence, self-efficacy, self-worth. They increase their own self-esteem.
I wanted to add something. So I think also for alumni, or for those who are doing their internships, having that conversation or maybe creating a forum where everyone can just share and how inclusive the environment where they're working at. Might be, so because sometimes the only way you would know is when you are already there. So like you're saying, like, if we have that kind of forum and everyone can just share, or it's more of um not advertise.
Information sharing.
Yes, it's like we're just sharing each other's information, like, okay, hey, you're alumni, how's it like in your, company? And it's just, as you're saying, it's a network, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and then everyone knows, oh, this company, heard this company, it's a good one.
Awesome. So, what are the next steps in advancing disability employment awareness, and how can our institution of higher education contribute to that process?
Sure.
Well, I think collaboration is important. SSD really does the academic accommodations within the classroom, and that's kind of our focus, but really collaborating, I would say, with the Career Development Center, the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, bringing in guest speakers. I would love to have Halvin Gurma from the blind deaf graduate from Harvard Law. She's amazing, a great speaker, but bringing in speakers, creating a universal design environment in general, I think is a great way to lead us to that. I want to make collaboration with Workability Board, Department of Rehab. I think we just really need to connect and continue things like this. It's our first time. I think continuing it every year, hopefully bringing in more people to just learn about it.
Well, I think like the best thing too, that it just showing the importance of having accessibility, because building that I usually go to class and stuff like that is the business building. One of the elevators are out of order, and then just having like it would be stalling or something like that. So sometimes it just being late to class, or just buttons as well. If I have an arm too, sometimes they're not buttons. And just showing that like people actually care. Another thing too is seeing is believing. So sometimes even if it's like a short little 10-second clip of just showing like a struggle or something like that, I feel like it really shows like brand awareness, well not brand awareness, but just awareness of like a situation that is happening, and maybe just like of a joke, but like also to showcase like this is the actuality of what people are going through.
I have different questions if you prefer different questions. New question? No, you got that? Okay. Do you want to answer this one, or do you want a new question?
I want a new.
Okay, I got new questions. I
This
got
is
more.
good, my favorite.
How can colleges help students with invisible disabilities who may not receive the same level of automatic accommodation or kind of empathetic accommodation as those with visible disabilities?
Okay, can you repeat that again?
So how can colleges support students with invisible disabilities who may not receive the same level of automatic or empathetic accommodation as those with visible disabilities?
Okay. I can answer that question because I have a hidden disability also. I learned disability because I was born with spinal bifida hydrocephalus. And my learning disability is still, okay, that's always gonna have to be there. English comprehension and math. I had to have those two subjects. Yes. I had to have them substituted when I was at City College and here. One was for transfer to Fresno State, and one was to substitute a class because I wasn't able to grasp that information, and it was a prerequisite to graduate that same semester. So knowing that you have a hidden disability, whether it be learning disability, anger, anxiety, self-esteem, uh, maybe a speech impediment, maybe it's something that deals with the functional adaptation of the brain, chemicals. I don't know. Once it's recognized and the once it's recognized and it's able to be recognized and help, then that student, that organization will become more successful in life. So, there.
I think having this kind of discussions, open forums and inviting more people in is a good way to really be more aware that we in some ways have, most of us have invisible disabilities, and it's just more that awareness. It's this one is a really good way of talking about it and sharing it.
I would say education. And I admit that probably does fall on SSD, and talking with faculty about disability awareness. More than 75% of our students who are registered with SSD have hidden disabilities. So definitely educating. The CSU is putting out a 3-part training, a webinar. One of them's already out regarding disability awareness. So it's a great start, but educating and then collaboration, because it shouldn't always have to come from SSD. It really should come from everyone at Fresno State, and just to show that support and that allyship.
As someone with a invisible disability as well, I have ADHD, and since I am also hard of hearing, it just kind of stems from not being able to know social cues to some extent. I feel like for accommodations and understanding with people with invisible disabilities, it's still a new thing. Like, still won't recognize ADHD to be actual disability, or to really like want to understand. And I feel like just education, and just also it's harder to accommodate for students if they don't also say it. So it's not fully just on staff, but like when understanding and being told that, and confidence for what has you, just to research yourself a little bit, and just to also just ask them to just like, oh, what helps you, like what helps you, because for everybody there's different tactics, like one thing like doesn't work for everybody that has ADHD. So just also just ask what works, and just communicate with that person or individual, and also just taking the time to research and understand just in general as well. It really helps.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Laptop died. In your experience, what does an inclusive work environment actually look like for individuals with disabilities? And it can either be one individual or multiple individuals of different kinds.
For me, like I would say when everything is just normal. It's normal to see like, everybody together, and it's kind of like, just normalizing it, and not like putting so much focus on it. Just like, oh yeah, let's go to the elevator, guys. Like when it becomes second nature, I feel like it really helps bring a sense of like, especially in the workplace, because it's a little tiny community, and it just kind of emphasizes that like you truly belong in there and not like get people they just get but like my phone. It's like, oh yeah, let's go to the elevator because Tori needs the elevator. It's just more of, hey guys, let's go to the elevator. It's that kind of thing. And it just brings that kind of like I can do something or they just get it, you know?
For me, it's just someone being able to walk into their work environment and do their job, not without having to wait for something to be done or be given or software to be provided, and then open communication with their employees. And also for the employer to be willing to do something new in different ways that doesn't have to be done the same old way, but adapt to new ways and still get the same end result.
Yeah, you're saying what I was thinking, it's more of just being in an adaptable environment and accepting each other. And just like, maybe if someone is late, it's not like, it's just having that conversation and making. Whatever has to be done is done, but at the same time, giving each other that allowance to make up for it sometimes, so it's just accepting each other for whatever. Let's say sometimes somebody gets sick because something that they are able to at the same time be responsible. Yeah, just accepting each other and adapting.
You said everything.
Okay. So, we'll open this up now if you guys have any other questions you can think of that, either went off of a question we've already asked or more specific to ideas you're thinking of about disability employment on the transition between college and employment, or, the dual role a lot of individuals have to play as, an employee and a college student simultaneously here on campus. We'll open it up to chat questions as well on Zoom, or if you guys have questions, you can shout them out. Yes,
Good suggestions or comments. Can we share them?
yeah, of course.
Well, I'll share it. So I actually like the questions that were being asked to the attendees or to the speakers here. So I'm a student here, but I have learning disabilities myself and I have a passion for it. And I think one of the questions was like, what can staff do for and higher education, right? I feel like not just staff, but even in the workforce, like people should have like a workshop or get training on what it's like, combinations and stuff like that. Because even me, like I struggle with it too when I'm like trying combinations and stuff like that. I do have a hard time like going about that. So I feel like if we do workshops and just teach people like doesn't matter what their title is, it should be important, because there's been times where I had my mental breakdowns with my professors. And I have to like educate my professors like, hey, like I have learning disability. And I feel like because you guys share like having speakers that have like disabilities will actually help people like understand and get an idea of like what a disability is like in the workforce. That makes me sense. So I guess that's just a suggestion that I will like share out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
It sounds more of having them have that disability sensitivity awareness that is needed basically worldwide.
Yeah.
Right now, United States is #1 with ability awareness, followed by, I think it's Canada, then the UK. But having, like you were talking about, the sensitivity awareness of the individual or the multiple employees that are employed, it gives you more out to basically say, hey, this is what needs to be done in order for me to get my job done. And you do have to advocate for yourself, no matter what you do. So keep up.
I really feel like, even for myself, I'm not a good advocate. I mean, coming from, very timid, culture, like, maybe not, but I wanna learn more about advocacy, self-advocacy especially, and I think this is something that really where I wanna grow.
I also wanted to point out too, just like for faculty and staff too, or just like to help with resources, because I know a lot of my friends too, that, and me included, because invisible disabilities are not taken as a priority. Or so like we're just not like, I'm just crazy, you know, I just need to push it down, and then we never fully take the time to really understand what we have and that we're not crazy. And this is something, or just like take the time sometimes to learn yourself. Just like, oh, these are different coping mechanisms, or taking the time to understand that. And resources to go about getting either professional help or to just cater to that too, because this, I was always taught that like my mental disability was a shame, or it's not as big as my physical disability. So to really get to understand that side, it really has helped me as well understand myself better. But yeah, having resources to um for the individual too, just to look more information about the different things, it really does help.
Any other questions, commentary from the crowd? Someone's rocking out. That's real loud. Well, I have some prompts for you guys to think about as well as we close up today, unless you guys have anything else you want to add. So how many of you have an office of your own, like a cubicle or a place where only you and students will meet? Shush. No, you don't. You have a cubicle. Yes, you do. Sorry, this is one of my facts. How many of you in that office have ability to change the lighting brightness?
The lighting?
Mhm. Have you ever done it for a student?
I'm just turning the lights down and add some
Yeah.
other lights,
Yeah.
because the mine is.
Yeah,
Not
mine's
sensitive.
absurdly bright. I have to turn, we
Yes.
have, yeah. How many of you have fidget toys available for students in your offices? Yeah, how many of you have alternative paperwork when you are talking to a student about something? Right, it's little things like that that are like, you know, oh yeah, the student will ask if they need it. They're not gonna ask, right? Self-advocacy is a massive thing, but it needs to start with us pushing them to that point. To encourage them, to show them that they can reach their goals. But we need to show them that is a goal first, right? It's having the alternatives available, having the large print available, having pens or highlighters available for them to work on any paperwork you're giving them. Because just saying like, oh yeah, this is important, and because you can pick it out in the paragraph doesn't mean they'll be able to. Having the lighting change if it's needed, having alternative seating if needed, having fidget toys, right? Things that really so many of our students use every day in their lives, but can be afraid to ask for once they enter someone's office, right? We talk a lot about classroom accommodation, but a lot of students are going into offices afraid to ask because it's not a classroom, they don't think they deserve it. Right?
I would like to also add on to that, because growing up too, like, since I was always in the hospital, it, like, self-allocation is a very new thing still for me. Because it wasn't till college when, like, my mom's like, okay, you need to, like, there's so many different things that I'm going to have to be able to do. But like, since going in the hospital like every other week, I didn't really have a voice, not because um, like they were trying to not give me a voice. It was more of, I was just always used to my mom being my biggest advocate. I was always used to her making decisions, they were using the legal terms, I was just used to that. And so like it was a big like turn when it's like, okay, you need to start learning how to do this yourself. And so finding the ability to find my voice is just still, I feel like a lot of students do face too. Because someone else has been doing it 18 years of our life. And some are still doing it. And a lot of us are still at home. And so finding time to be independent and that push is a very huge thing, and it's super scary too. It's on top of so many different hurdles. And
Alrighty. So thank you for coming today. Thank you for making the time to come and listen to us ramble. But I just want to reiterate that, you guys coming here means so much to any student you'll have contact to in the future, because that means you're willing to learn, you're willing to go out and keep, hearing other people's stories, bringing back the information, looking for resources, and collaborating with individuals who could support your students in the future. So keep engaging in things like this and in other opportunities on campus. Jenny mentioned there's some great resources right now on CSU Learn on disability and education. And then if you have any future questions or concerns, you want to reach out about something happening with a student, I'm always available. My cards are in the back. Let's talk about how we can support our students into this transition into the workforce. Alrighty,
And if you need to find work, come to me.
yes, we have our great workability for
Yeah.
specialized work support for individuals here on campus with disabilities.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you, everyone online. I'm gonna shut down now unless there's any last minute questions you want to add to the chat.
Good.
Yeah.
You got it. I'm always gonna be on campus, so one way or another. I'm either speaking in classes or I'm loving